Have you ever noticed how the harder you chase happiness, the more it seems to slip through your fingers? Imagine this. You wake up on a Monday morning, still half asleep, and instinctively reach for your phone. Your feed is filled with smiling faces, exotic vacations, new cars, inspirational quotes about joy. And instead of feeling inspired, you feel strangely inadequate, like everyone else is living a life you can't seem to reach. This is not just a random feeling. It's the silent weight of a culture obsessed with the pursuit of happiness. We are told that joy is the ultimate evidence of a life well lived, that if we aren't constantly radiating positivity, something must be broken inside us. But here's the paradox. The more we make happiness the goal, the further away it drifts. Think back to a moment when you told yourself, "I should be happier than this." Did that thought lift your spirit, or did it make you feel like you were failing at life? This is the cruel irony. Our obsession with happiness creates the very unhappiness we are trying to escape. The Austrian psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who endured the unimaginable suffering of concentration camps, observed something profound. Happiness is never found by chasing it directly. Instead, it ensues as a byproduct of living with purpose, responsibility, and love. But in today's world, we are told the opposite, that we must chase it, measure it, post about it, even buy it. And so, we keep running, endlessly exhausted, always one step behind. But what if unhappiness is not the enemy? What if the constant dissatisfaction you feel is not a flaw, but a signal pointing you toward a deeper truth? Maybe the real problem is not that you haven't found happiness, but that you've been looking for it in the wrong place. So let me ask you, is the relentless pressure to be happy actually stealing the very peace you long for? That's the question we'll confront together. By the end of this journey, you might discover that freedom lies not in chasing happiness, but in transcending it. Before we move on, tell me in the comments, do you ever feel the pressure to appear happy, even when you're not? And if this speaks to you, remember to like this video and subscribe, so we can keep unfolding these reflections together. What if you stopped chasing happiness altogether? Imagine how different your life could feel if joy wasn't something to be pursued like a prize, but something that naturally grew out of how you lived each day. Picture waking up without that gnawing pressure to feel good at all costs. Instead, your first thought is not, "Am I happy?" but "What is required of me today? What truly matters right now?" Think about the weight that could lift if you were no longer measuring every moment by how pleasant it feels. Instead of anxiously scanning your life for signs of joy, you would be free to live with purpose, even when life is messy or painful. Ironically, it's often in those messy, painful seasons that the deepest fulfillment emerges, the kind of meaning that no fleeting happiness can provide. Imagine walking into your job tomorrow, not with the expectation that it should make you happy, but with the question, how can I bring value here? How can I grow through this? That shift might seem small, but it changes everything. Suddenly, even frustration can become fuel for growth. Even setbacks can hold meaning. Happiness, instead of being demanded, becomes allowed to appear on its own, unforced, unexpected. We've been conditioned to think of happiness as the end of the road, the final reward for all our effort. But what if it's actually a side effect? Something that arrives when you're not looking for it? Like a shadow that follows you only when you move towards something greater than yourself. Close your eyes for a moment and really imagine it. A life where you don't have to chase joy because it comes quietly, naturally, as the fruit of responsibility, love, and sacrifice. A life where even sorrow has dignity, where struggle has meaning, where peace doesn't depend on a constant smile. Doesn't that sound lighter, more freeing than the endless chase you've been running? The truth is, happiness pursued directly often vanishes like a mirage. But when you focus on meaning, contribution, and growth, happiness tends to appear almost as an afterthought. Never demanded, never forced. So here's the challenge for you. What if, just for one day, you stopped asking, "Am I happy?" and started asking, "What meaningful step can I take right now?" Try it, and see how your perspective shifts. We live under a cultural illusion that happiness is both our right and our duty. From self-help books to advertising campaigns, the message is the same. If you are not constantly joyful, something is wrong. This is the myth that keeps so many of us trapped in cycles of dissatisfaction. Because here's the disruptive truth. Happiness, when treated as a goal, will always betray you. Think about the last time you achieved something you thought would make you happy. A promotion, a new relationship, a long-awaited purchase. How long did that feeling really last? A day? A week? Maybe a few months at best? Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill, the phenomenon where every achievement eventually loses its emotional shine, forcing us to run after the next source of pleasure. No matter how fast we run, the treadmill never stops. This is why Viktor Frankl insisted that happiness cannot be the aim. He saw, even in the darkest conditions of the concentration camps, that those who survived were not the ones clinging to pleasure, but those who discovered meaning, responsibility for another person, a duty to a future, a cause greater than themselves. Happiness for them was irrelevant. Purpose was everything. Here lies the rupture with the normal story we've been sold. Life is not about maximizing comfort and joy. In fact, if you make happiness your highest goal, you end up fragile, constantly disappointed, always one step away from despair. Because life, inevitably, will bring suffering. Illness, loss, frustration. None of us escape these realities. If your worth depends on being happy, then suffering becomes unbearable. But if your worth depends on living with purpose, then even suffering can be transformed into something meaningful. This is the secret our culture rarely admits. The constant chase for happiness is not only exhausting, it is destructive. It turns us inward, obsessed with our feelings, blind to responsibilities and relationships that give life real depth. So here's the challenge. What belief have you held about happiness that might actually be making you more miserable? What if the very pursuit you thought would save you is the thing holding you back? Sometimes the only way forward is to let go of the illusion and to start asking not how can I be happy, but what is worth my sacrifice? To truly break free from the happiness trap, we need wisdom deeper than motivational slogans. Few voices carry more authority on this subject than Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. Frankl endured the unimaginable: starvation, humiliation, and the constant presence of death in the concentration camps. Yet, even in that abyss of suffering, he uncovered a truth that still challenges us today. Life is not about the pursuit of happiness, but about the pursuit of meaning. Frankl observed his fellow prisoners carefully. Those who clung to the idea that life should be pleasant or easy often collapsed under despair. But those who discovered a why to live for, whether it was the hope of reuniting with a loved one, the duty to complete unfinished work, or simply the decision to bear suffering with dignity, those individuals were far more likely to survive. He later captured this insight in his book Man's Search for Meaning, where he wrote that happiness cannot be pursued. It must ensue as a natural outcome of living with responsibility and purpose. This isn't just philosophy, it's psychology backed by lived experience. Modern research supports Frankl's observation. Studies in positive psychology reveal that people who focus on meaning, through service, creativity, or deep relationships, report greater well-being over time than those who merely pursue pleasure. Meaning, unlike happiness, sustains us in both joy and hardship. Think about the implications for your own life. If happiness is your compass, then every disappointment feels like failure. But if meaning is your compass, then even setbacks can become stepping stones. You don't need every day to feel good, you need it to matter. That's a far sturdier foundation for the storms of existence. Let's pause and reflect. Whose voice have you been listening to more? Society's command to be happy, or the quieter call to live with responsibility and depth? Frankl's testimony gives us permission to stop chasing feelings and start embracing purpose. The challenge is simple, though not easy. Shift the question. Instead of asking, "Am I happy right now?" begin asking, "Am I living for something that outlives me?" That shift may be the very doorway to the peace you've been searching for all along. There's a hidden cycle that quietly shapes much of our unhappiness. It goes like this. We feel dissatisfied. We assume happiness is the cure, so we chase pleasure, comfort, or distraction. For a moment, it works. We feel relief. But soon, the emptiness returns, stronger than before. And so, the cycle repeats. Most people don't even notice it because it feels so normal. But beneath it lies a pattern that drains our lives of depth. Psychologists have a name for part of this cycle: hedonic adaptation. No matter how exciting or pleasurable an experience is, our minds quickly normalize it. The new car, the promotion, the vacation, all fade into the background, leaving us craving the next fix. It's not that pleasure is bad, but that it was never designed to be the foundation of a meaningful life. It's like trying to live on dessert without ever eating real food. Another invisible dynamic is comparison. Social media magnifies this endlessly. We don't just want happiness, we want as much happiness as the next person, if not more. So even in moments of joy, we wonder, am I as happy as I should be? Am I missing out? This constant self-measurement poisons the very moments that could bring contentment. And here's the cruelest irony. By obsessing over happiness, we become more self-centered. Our focus turns inward, my feelings, my mood, my joy. But meaning always pulls us outward, toward responsibility, love, and sacrifice. The more we orbit around ourselves, the smaller and lonelier our world becomes. The more we turn outward, the freer and fuller we feel. Think of it this way: happiness is like a shadow. The more you chase it directly, the more it slips away. But when you walk toward something meaningful, the shadow follows. It's there, but it's not the point. So take a moment to reflect. What invisible patterns might be shaping your discontent? Are you on the hedonic treadmill, always running but never arriving? Are you trapped in endless comparison, measuring your joy against others? Or are you stuck circling around your own desires, forgetting that life expands only when you give yourself away? Noticing these dynamics is the first step to breaking free. Because once you can name the trap, you can begin to step outside of it and walk towards something far greater. Sometimes we need truths sharp enough to cut through the fog of our illusions. Short, piercing sentences that leave no room for escape. So let's put it plainly. Happiness is not a goal. It is a byproduct. The more you chase it, the more it runs. Life is not meant to feel good all the time. Your suffering does not mean your life has no meaning. And perhaps the hardest truth of all, meaning matters more than happiness. These are not easy statements to swallow in a culture addicted to comfort. But that's why they strike so deep. They expose the cracks in the story we've been told since childhood. That happiness is the prize, and if you don't have it, you're failing. Think of how liberating it is to turn this narrative upside down. Suddenly, your bad day doesn't mean your life is broken. Your moments of pain don't cancel out your worth. Your struggles can even add to the richness of your existence if you dare to see them through the lens of responsibility and meaning. So, let these truths echo in your mind like anchors. Happiness is fleeting. Meaning is enduring. Happiness depends on circumstance. Meaning can transform circumstance. Happiness is about how you feel. Meaning is about who you are becoming. When you grasp this, life stops being about chasing a mood and starts being about building a character. That shift is everything. It is the difference between a life of fragile highs and lows and a life with roots deep enough to weather storms. So here's the reflection I want to leave you with. What short, piercing truth do you need to carry with you? Which phrase do you need to etch into your memory for the moments when happiness feels far away? Because sometimes, one sharp sentence has the power to realign your whole perspective. And maybe, just maybe, one of these truths will become that compass for you. Life is full of paradoxes, truths that seem contradictory on the surface but reveal deep wisdom when held together. And nowhere is this more evident than in the relationship between happiness and suffering. At first glance, they appear to be enemies. Our culture tells us, avoid suffering, seek happiness. But what if the very path to genuine fulfillment runs through the heart of suffering itself? Think about the moments that shaped you most as a person. Were they moments of comfort and ease, or moments of struggle, pain, and loss? Chances are, the deepest growth you've experienced came not from laughter on sunny days, but from storms that forced you to mature. Paradoxically, it is often through suffering that we discover strength, compassion, and resilience. This is what Viktor Frankl meant when he said that suffering ceases to be suffering when it finds meaning. A painful experience does not magically become pleasant, but it can be transformed into something significant. The heartbreak that teaches you to love more deeply. The failure that forces you to redefine success. The loss that awakens gratitude for what remains. These paradoxes are not comfortable, but they are profoundly human. Now compare that with happiness. Happiness is light, fragile, dependent on circumstance. It comes easily, but it also leaves easily. Suffering, though unwelcome, digs roots into the soul. It opens possibilities that happiness alone could never reveal. The paradox is this: if you spend your life fleeing suffering in search of happiness, you will end up shallow and restless. But if you embrace suffering with courage and purpose, you often find a deeper form of fulfillment, one that happiness alone could never deliver. So here's the surprising truth: happiness and suffering are not opposites. They are intertwined. To cut suffering out of life is to cut out the very soil in which meaning grows. And meaning, more than happiness, is what truly sustains us. Let me leave you with this reflection. Instead of asking, "How can I avoid pain and find happiness?" what if you asked, "What meaning can I uncover in this pain, and how might it shape the person I am becoming?" Because the paradox is clear. The path to the deepest joy often winds straight through the valley of suffering. If chasing happiness leaves us empty, then what happens when we shift our focus to meaning instead? The promise is not a life without struggle. No philosophy worth holding on to would make that false guarantee. The promise is something deeper, an inner strength that carries you through both joy and hardship, a peace that does not collapse when circumstances change. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a new orientation. Instead of asking, "Will this make me happy?" you ask, "Will this matter? Will this shape me? Will this serve someone beyond myself?" That single shift has the power to transform the texture of your days. Suddenly, even small, ordinary actions take on weight. Preparing dinner for your family is not just a task. It is an act of love. Facing conflict at work is not just stress. It is training in patience and character. Even enduring loss can be reframed, not as meaningless suffering, but as participation in the profound human story of resilience and transcendence. The reward of living for meaning is not the shallow high of pleasure, but the steady presence of fulfillment. Unlike happiness, fulfillment does not vanish when difficulties arrive. In fact, it often deepens in those very moments. Meaning gives you a why strong enough to bear any how. And from that foundation, happiness often arises, not demanded, not forced, but as a natural echo of a life lived well. This is the promise hidden in meaning, that your life will no longer be at the mercy of moods, circumstances, or comparisons. You won't need to chase joy because your focus will be on something greater. And when happiness does appear, as it surely will, you will receive it not with desperation, but with gratitude. So here's the vision. Imagine yourself years from now looking back on your life. Do you want the story to be about chasing feelings that never lasted, or about carrying responsibilities, loving deeply, and becoming someone stronger than you ever thought you could be? That's the real promise. Happiness not as a goal, but as a quiet companion on the road of meaning. And if you dare to walk that road, you may find that the joy you were once chasing is the joy that now follows you, freely given. To anchor all of this, let's build a clear framework, a way of seeing life that makes sense of both happiness and suffering. Psychology, philosophy, and even literature converge on this truth. The foundation of a good life is not pleasure, but meaning. Viktor Frankl, drawing on existential philosophy, taught that humans are meaning-seeking creatures. Unlike animals driven purely by instinct, we hunger for significance. Without it, even comfort feels empty. With it, even pain can be endured. This is why so many people with material abundance still feel hollow, while others who endure hardship radiate strength. Modern psychology reinforces this with research on eudaimonic well-being, a term rooted in Aristotle's philosophy. Whereas hedonic well-being focuses on pleasure and the absence of pain, eudaimonia is about living in accordance with your highest values, pursuing virtue, responsibility, and contribution. The findings are clear. People who orient their lives around eudaimonia report greater long-term satisfaction, resilience, and mental health. In other words, meaning sustains, pleasure fades. Literature also testifies to this. Think of Dostoevsky, who wrote that the secret of man's being is not only to live, but to have something to live for. Or consider the Greek tragedies, which remind us that suffering is not an interruption of life. It is life, and the measure of our greatness is how we respond to it. These voices across centuries all echo the same framework. Happiness is too fragile to build a life upon. Only meaning is strong enough to carry the weight of existence. So how do we apply this framework personally? It begins with reframing the central question. Instead of, "Am I happy?" ask, "Am I living meaningfully?" Instead of chasing feelings, chase responsibility. Instead of avoiding suffering, search for what it can teach and shape in you. This shift is not abstract. It changes how you parent, how you work, how you love. It gives coherence to the chaos of life because every moment, joyful or painful, can be integrated into the larger story of becoming. So let me ask you directly, if someone were to read your life like a novel, would they find a character chasing feelings or a character forging meaning? That question is not meant to condemn. It is meant to invite. Because you still hold the pen. You still get to write the story. So here we are, at the end of this reflection. We've walked through the illusions, the paradoxes, and the hidden patterns that keep us trapped in the endless chase for happiness. And now the choice stands before you. Will you keep running after a feeling that slips away? Or will you turn toward meaning? The one foundation strong enough to carry both your joy and your suffering. This is not an easy choice. To live for meaning means embracing responsibility, sacrifice, and sometimes pain. But it also means living with depth, with dignity, with a sense that even your darkest nights are not wasted. It means stepping out of the fragile pursuit of moods and into the steady pursuit of character. And strangely enough, when you do, happiness often comes, not as a prize, but as a quiet companion. Let me ask you, what matters most to you right now? Not what feels good, not what entertains, but what truly matters. What is worth your effort, your patience, even your suffering? That is the doorway to meaning. And through meaning, you will discover a peace far sturdier than happiness. I want you to pause for a moment and think about one area of your life where you've been chasing happiness. Maybe in your career, your relationships, or your possessions. What would it look like to stop chasing and start serving? To ask not, "Am I happy?" but, "Am I becoming someone worth being?" That shift could change everything. Now, I want to invite you into something more. Share in the comments. What do you believe is more important than happiness in your life? Let's build a space here where we can explore those deeper values together. And if this message resonated with you, I ask you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Not just to support, but to keep walking this journey with us. Because the world doesn't need more people chasing happiness. It needs more people living with meaning. Happiness may fade, but meaning endures. Choose meaning. And in that choice, you may find the very joy you've been searching for all along.